Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the Wright Flyer. I'm Randy Wright, and I'll be your captain on this solo flight special edition of our state-of-the-art radio program. Folks, this will be the final boarding call, so if you please, claim your seats, fasten your seatbelts, kick back, relax, and enjoy the show while I go ahead and delve into the pre-flight checklist, as there really is a lot of news and information to get to before I may fully indulge you with your in-flight entertainment. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have certainly seen a lot of tribulation and turbulence coming up in Tinseltown, the entertainment capital of these United States of America, surrounding Harvey Weinstein and the way that he has come forth and reacted to this plethora of accusations of sexual harassment and abuse. He's essentially trying to claim that he is in no way, shape, or form wrong, and that every one of these encounters was consensual. That isn't necessarily true. In fact, it most certainly isn't true. And the way that he went out there and attempted to tell the rank and file of the graduates of Pavlov School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media that he needed help, it was intellectually disingenuous. But this isn't the first time that Hollywood has faced a troublesome sexual scandal. In fact, going back to its earliest days at the opening half of the 20th century, in fact, the first 2 decades of the 20th century to be exact, there was a scandal back in 1921 involving one of the great comedians of the silent era, one of the big ones, named Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle. And he was throwing an illicit party. And I say illicit because there was bootleg liquor there, as this was at the height of Prohibition, and a young woman named Virginia Rapet, who had a rather sordid history of her own, of taking her clothing off for small bit parts, and even for having several back alley abortions, and also having venereal diseases, who died at this party in San Francisco where Roscoe Arbuckle had booked a 3-room suite in order to have this swanky party of his. She died of a ruptured bladder, and William Randolph Hearst, as the ultimate leader of the salivating mainstream media at the time, went forth and attempted to spin it as clearly in a state of inebriation. Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle had dragged Virginia Rapet into the bed in this 3-room hotel suite, savagely raped her, and because of the great girth of his weight, had ruptured her bladder, thereby causing her to die. And that's what they ran with. It was a very, very different sort of story than that which surrounds Harvey Weinstein. But it shows that the good and decent people of these United States of America won't stand for or tolerate these sorts of things, because it was seen as perverting the social mores and leading society itself astray, and that is certainly something that they wanted to avoid at all costs. And so, as you can see, what this did is it led Hollywood to turn to Harding's administration with William Hayes to come in and essentially begin major steps of creating one universal federal standard for censorship. It had been a mess before that, in that each and every state had its own separate standards for dealing with censorship and what could and could not be shown on the silver screen in the theaters throughout the country. But the important thing to take away from all of this is that these sorts of scandals are nothing new in Hollywood's history. In fact, this is something that Hollywood has encountered time and again throughout its 100-plus-year history. And that's certainly not something that is about to change at any point in the foreseeable future. We see that Harvey Weinstein is just a continuation of what has been going on there all this time. But it's not just Hollywood where we see this sort of thing. We see that Bill O'Reilly is still having problems, and that it came out that it was known, his seedy behavior. And the ironic thing is that Harvey Weinstein's company, TMZ, was the one that had released the sex tapes all the way back in 2004 and 5, when it was Andrea Macries, one of his female producers, that had recorded these inappropriate phone calls, these unsolicited phone calls, in which Bill O'Reilly attempted to essentially foist himself onto his female producer, completely and totally against her will. So you see, even in the area of news and the dissemination of information, we have this sort of sordid details, this sort of thing that should never be tolerated in an open, honest, but above all free society like that of these United States of America. So what we see is that there is this pervasive, perverted culture that exists within the entertainment industry of these United States of America. And it is a terrible thing to see. The reason it's terrible to see this is that these people are the type that go out and create a special niche for themselves, carve out a special niche for themselves so that they can do whatever the hell they want, whenever the hell they want. But that's not the way that things work, because when you see that they try and push this holier-than-thou attitude on each and every one of us in our individual capacity as United States citizens, it smacks of a sort of arrogance, a haughtiness that is reprehensible and deplorable all at the same time. But this idea that Harvey Weinstein is going into these clinics where he's allowed to have a phone that nobody else is allowed to have, and is railing against every one of these people that have brought allegations against him, swearing on his life that it was consensual, yet this after he had done that little display of getting into the SUV and saying that he's not all right, that he needs help. Why is it that we are getting mixed signals from this Tinseltown tycoon? Why is it that we are hearing very differing accounts from him? And why is it that he's allowed to carve out a special niche for himself, not required to follow the same rules as everyone else? You see, this is what the Hollywood elites have always been about. This is what they have always engaged in. And it's quite frankly disgusting that they think that they can do and get away with anything. For instance, think of the way that they so arrogantly attack those of us in Middle America, those of us who hold traditional conservative values. They loathe and despise us. They go out to lampoon us at every available opportunity, and they are ruthless and relentless in this pursuit. They will not stop in this pursuit, come hell or high water, and they believe that they are well in right to do so. It's disgusting. But above all, it's hypocritical. It is absolutely hypocritical. And the reason it is so hypocritical is because it is do as I say, not as I do. And if there is one thing that we've pointed out on previous episodes of our state-of-the-art radio program here at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, it's that hypocrisy seems to always dominate with those who are within the rank and file of the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists. They always think that they are a cut above the rest. And this is part of the reason why that great French philosopher and admirer of the United States in her halcyon days of de Tocqueville stated that anyone who supports any form or type of socialism is essentially a New Age feudalist, is attempting to create a static caste system in the heart of the land of the free and the home of the brave, in which they are at the upper crust. You see, that's the way it's always done. You've got two ends of it. You have those who are within the upper echelons of government, the elitists, the snobs, those who thumb their noses at anybody and everyone who simply doesn't go along with this type of vision that they have. And then you have those who are perpetually lazy, who just want to work off the backs of everyone else. Socialism is a way to spread misery. That's all it is capable of doing. That is the only thing it can create. Socialism, by its very nature, is a destructive mindset as well as ideology. And it clearly has no place in an open and honest, but above all free society like that of these United States of America. And the people like Harvey Weinstein, and even to a lesser degree, those like Bill O'Reilly, truly have always operated with a mindset that they do not have to follow the rules that the rest of us peons do. And it is quite telling as to how this mindset is so pervasive within the mainstream popular culture in America. For generation after successive generation, the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists have done everything within their power to dominate those attributes and elements of society which can control the narrative. It's as my first officer, Jeremy Graventon, and I have oft-times stated on previous episodes of Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, that in the arena of American politics, particularly in this fast-paced modern society in which we live today, oftentimes matters more than reality itself, irrespective of whether it is true or not. And the best way to control that is to have the influence over popular culture and society. That way, you can control what the norms are. You have the ability to then shape and mold what is acceptable in the land of the free and the home of the brave. And that is exactly what the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists have been doing for well over 150 plus years now, folks. And it shows no signs of improving, at least within the foreseeable future. Why? Because these charlatans truly believe in their heart of hearts that they see a light at the end of the tunnel, and that this means that their victory is within grasp sooner rather than later. So we, in our individual capacity as United States citizens, must be ready, willing, and able to see through this, to voice our opinions, to let these charlatans know that we aren't going to just sit idly by and allow them to pervert and manipulate popular culture. Now, the funny thing is, looking back at the Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle thing, when you recall that it was William Randolph Hearst that was basically dominating the news at that time, controlling the news and the attributes that would be accepted at that time, he was sleeping with a Hollywood starlet. She was living on his massive estate, and she eventually died of a drug overdose. Yet he ruined permanently the career of Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, who, might I add, was ultimately acquitted of all charges because it was a setup by Madame Black, that rather enigmatic figure who had sent Virginia Rapet to that party. this was all part of politics as usual, as the district attorney in the San Francisco area was up for re-election, and he saw a way to manipulate the voters of that local community to help him secure re-election. By the third trial, because there kept being mistrials, a unanimous jury came forth and did something that is unprecedented in legal parlance. They offered an apology to Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, saying that he had been subjected to a great miscarriage of justice, that the district attorney had been going on a political rampage and a witch hunt against him. But it didn't matter, because it took so long for the entire incident to be resolved. Hollywood turned their backs on him. In fact, the first thing that William Hayes did when he was brought in to police the image of Hollywood and create the morality clauses that exist within their contracts was to permanently ban Roscoe Arbuckle from the screen. Folks, this was a man who was completely innocent of any and all wrongdoing. He had done nothing wrong. He was falsely accused. And that's something we have to keep in mind. We cannot just sit idly by and allow these things to destroy the fundamental and inalienable rights that we have, which were endowed to us by our Creator, the God of nature himself. Because it's as my first officer, Jeremy Grapington, and I have so frequently reiterated, almost to the point of it reaching ad nauseum on previous episodes of our state-of-the-art radio program, without our fundamental and inalienable God-given rights, we are truly left with nothing, both as a nation and people. That is a highly significant and important thing to keep in mind, particularly when we examine these sorts of things. But with Harvey Weinstein, it's a different story. He had a completely and totally different approach, and he, more likely than not, is absolutely and totally guilty, but I'm not going to go forth with that until it's adjudicated. But I can certainly state my opinion, which I just did. There is just far too much evidence under the totality of the circumstances to conclude that Harvey Weinstein didn't, in some way, shape, or form, engage in illicit behavior. That he did do these sorts of unfathomable and unspeakable deeds. You just can't ignore that. But also the way he's responding. As I had mentioned before, those mixed signals that he has been sending out to the public through the rank and file of the graduates of Pavlov's School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media, and the fact that during that little exchange with the salivating mainstream media, where he said, "Guys, I've always been loyal to you. Please don't follow me," that speaks more to a guilty conscience and mind than it does to someone who is truly professing and believes within their heart of hearts that they are innocent. But it still speaks to that mindset that he's had for generation after successive generation, where he is above the fray, and the rules, at least in his mind, don't apply to him. Well, enough is enough with that sort of nonsense, ladies and gentlemen. That sort of thing does not serve this nation well, nor does it serve the American people well. When we examine this, under the totality of the circumstances and with a modicum of objectivity, it becomes quite clear that all of the posturing that has been going forth from Hollywood in the heart of the land of the free and the home of the brave is just that. It's posturing. They don't believe it. And they are arrogant and flippant about what they're doing and what they are trying to foist upon us. And it's this type of preaching that they do, which is not only dissettling, but it is completely and totally intellectually disingenuous. We cannot allow ourselves to fall into the trap of just about just how badly things have gone. Folks, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties here. Hopefully the stream has reconnected completely. Anyway, Harvey Weinstein is a problem and has always been a problem because it was an open secret. Now, certainly, morality clauses were nothing new in Hollywood contracts. After the Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle scandal, they became a frequent and domineering attribute of any of the contracts that the well-established stars and even the new burgeoning stars had to sign. And it meant that the studio system could terminate their employment with the studio at any time and completely in their discretion if they violated the terms of morality. So if they got caught in a salacious sex scandal, if they got caught doing drugs or whatnot, they could be terminated. But at the same time, the studios had studio doctors that did illegal back alley abortions and provided drugs and even got some of the actors addicted to drugs, like one actor whose name escapes me at this moment, back during the silent era, was involved in a small train, one of those small gauge train accidents, and was injured. But because it was so far along in the film, they didn't want to lose money, so they had the studio doctor go back and inject him with morphine, and he ultimately wound up getting addicted to morphine, and that's what, finally ended his life. It was tragic, but it is the air of hypocrisy that has always existed within the entertainment capital of these United States of America. So the way that we've seen so many within the rank and file of the graduates of Pavlov's School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media come forth and act as though they are surprised by this, particularly when the vast majority of the accounts of all of this have gone forth and stated that it was essentially an open secret that Harvey Weinstein was aggressive towards women, tried to have his way with women, disrespected, abused, and harassed them. All of that speaks volumes about the culture that exists within the entertainment capital of these United States of America, and it is an ugly thing to see. But this fake surprise and the lingering push towards more identity politics is certainly not the way that we ought to be going with this. It's certainly not the type of future that we should set for ourselves. It's certainly not the way to overcome this thing. You see, the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists are following in the lines of Kat Sunstein, who essentially stated, never let a good crisis go to waste. If you can exploit it for your own political capital and your own political aggrandizement and gain, then you do that. Come hell or high water, that is what you do. And so that is what Tinseltown and the rank and file of the graduates of Pavlov's School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media have set themselves up to do. They're looking to push this line of identity politics that's torn straight from the playbook of cultural Marxism. Now, is that what we want here in the heart of the land of the free and the home of the brave? Is that what will serve us best? To be quite frank and honest with you, I don't believe that that is in our best interest. I don't believe that that will serve us well. But the flagrant hypocrisy that we have seen on the part of the Hollywood elites is only going to get worse. And it could potentially be on the same scale as to the threat of Hollywood and America's entertainment industry that the Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle scandal was some 96 years ago. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot ignore that these things are out there. And yes, entertainment is important. Movies are a good form of entertainment, or at least they used to be. But for generation after successive generation, we've been preached at by these arrogant actors and actresses who are not interested in portraying the truth about what they feel. It's all groupthink. It's a collectivized form of groupthink, and they double down on it time and again in a way that they think that they can do no wrong, and that each and every one of us just has to sit back and accept this diatribe and drivel that they are trying to send our way. But that does not serve us at all. It's dangerous. It's disingenuous. It's unacceptable. But here we are. We find it. In the land of the free and the home of the brave, we see that their arrogance knows no bounds. We see that they will not back down from this. We see that they will double down on it. And that's part of the reason why Harvey Weinstein is going in there, basically in unwavering terms, stating that he did no wrong, because he truly believes that he did no wrong. Now, how could he reach that conclusion? That I don't know. That, to me, that goes beyond the pale. It tells me that we have to be ready, willing, and able to let these charlatans know that we do not like it when they try and preach to us in such a form and fashion. But above all, we don't want them to be able to pervert culture and society. Because one of the few tests that we are obliged to do via the clear and concise language contained within the four corners of the preamble to our shared United States Constitution is to secure the blessings of liberty not only for ourselves but also for our posterity, meaning the up-and-coming generations, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, even those generations which have yet to be born. The fact that Harvey Weinstein was a predator and was able to get away with this, and all of Hollywood and all of the media knew about it, and yet they empowered this, is disgusting. But the way that they are now trying to make it seem as though every man on the face of God's green earth is a sexual predator and will abuse women and all of this, this second wave feminist nonsense, that too is disgusting. That too is an attempt by the rank and file of the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists to not only politicize this issue, but to further sow the seeds of dissension and division and divisiveness here in the heart of the land of the free and the home of the brave, and that is something we cannot and most certainly shall not tolerate, because it works against us in each and every instance that we encounter it. You see, ladies and gentlemen, self-accountability and self-responsibility being the twin fundamental pillars of American culture as well as society allows us to be a self-determinant people. Hollywood and the media, they don't want us to be independent. They don't want us to be self-determinate. They want to be able to control and micromanage the facets of our daily lives from cradle until the grave. And we can certainly see that. Their words, deeds, and actions always line up to be that sort of a system. and it is an ugly system that has no place in an open and honest, but above all, free society like that of these United States of America. You see, ladies and gentlemen, what this pervasive culture from the left has done is to plunge us into an area and time where we are uncertain of what the future for these United States of America will be. It should never occur in such a form or fashion as that, because it works to our detriment each and every time. Folks, I know this is going to be another short episode, but I want to thank you for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and begin the descent. I'm going to send the flight attendant back for one last round of alcohol. If she attempts to sexually assault you, please just push her out of the plane. As always, folks, I'm your captain, Randy Wright, and I want to thank you for tuning in to our state-of-the-art radio program. Should you have any questions, comments, concerns, or even topic suggestions, please feel free to leave them either in the comment section here on our YouTube page or over on our Google Plus page or even on our Facebook page. And on top of that, I invite you to follow us on Twitter with the Twitter handle @RadioAviationEX. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, that's @RadioAviationEX, and there you will find the departure board that lists my personal Twitter account as well as the personal Twitter account of my first officer, Jeremy Grapington. You will find the link to the Blogspot account, and you will find the link to our Cafe Press account that is just chock full of neat novelty items, either with our original Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer logo on it, the First Class Passenger logo, or the two Uplifting America logos. Because let's face it, in dark and turbulent times such as these, America could use some uplifting. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Randy Wright, and I've been your captain, and I thank you for flying with us. I hope to see you again next time. Please do take care.